names in hip-hop again, because of a New York Knicks celebration song. But that's exactly what's happening right now. What should have been a simple moment of hometown pride has suddenly turned into a social media debate that has fans asking one question over and over again. Was this really about the Knicks? Or was it about Remy Ma? For weeks, Remy Ma has been making headlines. Between her appearance on the remix of Ever Since You Left, the growing attention surrounding the track, and major platforms helping push the record into the spotlight, many fans felt she was enjoying one of her biggest moments in recent memory. Then, almost out of nowhere, Papoose stepped into the conversation with a brand new Knicks championship anthem of his own. And that's when people started connecting dots. The timing immediately raised eyebrows. Social media users began debating whether the release was simply a passionate tribute to New York's historic basketball moment, or whether there was something deeper happening behind the scenes. Add in recent live streams, emotional messages, cryptic comments, and ongoing speculation surrounding the relationship between Papoose and Remy Ma, and suddenly a simple song release turned into a full-blown controversy. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. Some fans believe Papoose is being unfairly criticized and is simply doing what artists have always done, creating music around major cultural moments. Others are convinced this release wasn't random at all. They think the timing was too perfect, too convenient, and too connected to the growing buzz surrounding Remy Ma to be ignored. So what really happened? Was this a celebration of New York pride? A strategic career move? Or a message hidden in plain sight that everyone is only now starting to understand? Because once we break down the timeline, the reactions, and the growing fan theories, this story becomes a lot bigger than just a Knicks song. For New York sports fans, this was supposed to be a moment years in the making. The city was buzzing with excitement. Streets were packed with people wearing orange and blue. Social media timelines were flooded with Knicks highlights, reaction videos, celebrity celebrations, and endless discussions about what this championship run meant to the city. Everywhere you looked, people were talking about New York basketball. For longtime fans, it felt like a dream finally becoming reality. Celebrities, musicians, athletes, and influencers all wanted to be part of the celebration. It wasn't just a sports story anymore. It had become a cultural event. And whenever New York experiences a moment this big, hip-hop naturally becomes part of the conversation. Artists start releasing songs, posting tributes, and attaching themselves to the excitement because music and New York sports have always been deeply connected. Nobody thought there was anything unusual about that. At least not at first. Then attention started shifting toward Papoose. Initially, it wasn't because of a new song. It was because of his online presence. Fans noticed he seemed unusually active during a period when many expected him to simply be celebrating alongside everyone else. Instead of appearing at major public events or joining some of the highly visible Knicks festivities that were taking over social media, Papoose seemed focused on something else entirely. Viewers tuning into his live streams began noticing an energy that felt different. Some described him as reflective. Others thought he appeared frustrated. A few even suggested he looked emotional. Of course, nobody truly knows what was happening behind the scenes. Social media only shows pieces of a person's reality. But that didn't stop people from speculating. In today's entertainment world, every facial expression becomes a headline, and every live stream becomes evidence for someone's theory. As clips from these live streams started circulating online, people became increasingly interested in what Papoose was saying. Certain comments quickly grabbed attention. Statements about nobody being able to take something away from you. Remarks about destiny, faith, and perseverance. Comments about obstacles and people trying to stop what was meant to happen. Individually, none of these statements seemed particularly controversial. Artists and public figures say similar things all the time. But context changes everything. Because of the highly publicized discussions surrounding Remy Ma, many viewers immediately began interpreting his words through a completely different lens. Suddenly, ordinary motivational comments were being analyzed as hidden messages. Fans started asking themselves whether these statements were directed at someone specific or whether social media was simply reading too much into them. What made the situation even more fascinating was the timing. Around the same period, Remy Ma was receiving significant attention online. Conversations surrounding her music, her collaborations, and her public appearances were generating headlines across entertainment blogs and social media platforms. Every move she made seemed to spark another round of discussion. As a result, many observers found themselves watching both stories simultaneously. On one side, you had Remy Ma gaining momentum through high-profile music conversations. On the other side, you had Papoose appearing in live streams that many fans believed carried a deeper meaning. Whether that interpretation was fair or not didn't matter. The narrative was already beginning to form. The internet has a unique way of connecting unrelated events. Once people decide two stories are linked, every future development gets viewed through that perspective. That's exactly what happened here. Fans began creating timelines. They compared social media posts. They analyzed comments. They examined who was promoting what and when. Every new detail seemed to add fuel to an already growing conversation. What might have otherwise been dismissed as normal celebrity activity was suddenly being viewed as part of a much larger storyline involving relationships, careers, public perception, and competition for attention. Then came the development that changed everything. Just when people thought the conversation was centered around live streams and speculation, reports began spreading that Papoose had released a Knicks championship song. Suddenly, all those discussions that had been quietly building online exploded into a much bigger debate. The release immediately caught attention because it arrived during one of the busiest periods of conversation surrounding New York culture, sports, and hip-hop. Some fans loved it instantly. They saw it as exactly what a proud New York artist should be doing during a historic moment for the city. Others weren't so sure. They couldn't ignore the timing. They couldn't ignore the headlines. And they certainly couldn't ignore the fact that another major conversation involving Remy Ma was already dominating social media. Within hours, people began choosing sides. Supporters argued that artists release celebratory music all the time. Critics claimed there was more to the story. And before anyone even had time to fully listen to the song, the debate surrounding its purpose had already taken over social media. What nobody realized at that moment was that the song itself would soon become secondary. Because as fans started digging deeper into the timeline, they discovered details that would make the entire situation even more controversial than anyone expected. Long before the Knicks Anthem became the center of attention, fans had already started paying close attention to Papoose's online activity. In fact, that's what makes this story so interesting. The song didn't create the speculation, it amplified it. By the time the track arrived, many people had already formed opinions based on what they had been seeing on social media for weeks. Every live stream, every comment, every appearance seemed to generate another round of discussion. Whether fair or unfair, Papoose found himself under a microscope, and viewers were analyzing everything. One of the biggest reasons for that was the mood people believed they were seeing during his live streams. Viewers described moments where he appeared deep in thought. Others claimed he looked frustrated. Some even suggested he seemed hurt by recent events. Of course, nobody can truly know what another person is feeling through a screen. A live stream captures only a small moment in someone's day. But social media has never been known for waiting on facts. The internet thrives on interpretation, and that's exactly what happened here. Clips began circulating across platforms, with users attaching their own narratives to every statement he made. Particularly interesting were comments where Papoose spoke about success, destiny, and people being unable to stop what God has planned. On their own, those remarks sounded motivational. They sounded like the kind of encouragement countless public figures share every day. Yet because of everything happening around Remy Ma, many fans immediately viewed the comments differently. They wondered if he was sending a message. Was he speaking generally about life? Or was he addressing someone specific without mentioning names? That question quickly became one of the hottest debates online. The situation became even more complicated because of the ongoing public interest surrounding the relationship between Papoose and Remy Ma. For years, many fans viewed them as one of hip-hop's strongest couples. Their story had been celebrated across interviews, television appearances, and social media. They represented loyalty to many supporters. So when rumors and reports about difficulties in their relationship started gaining attention, fans naturally became invested. People wanted answers. They wanted explanations. And whenever either person made a public move, audiences immediately tried connecting it back to the bigger story. That's exactly why the live streams attracted so much attention. Every phrase seemed to generate new theories. Every emotional moment became a topic of discussion. Some viewers believed Papoose was simply focusing on his own journey and speaking positively about overcoming challenges. Others felt there was something more personal happening beneath the surface. Social media users started posting clips with captions suggesting hidden meanings. Content creators began producing breakdown videos. Comment sections filled with thousands of opinions. Suddenly, people who had never met Papoose were confidently explaining what they believed he was thinking. Then another factor entered the conversation. Around the same time, Remy Ma was receiving attention for music-related developments that many considered major career wins. Discussions surrounding collaborations, streaming success, and industry support continued growing. Fans noticed that entertainment blogs seemed increasingly focused on her achievements. Every new headline generated additional momentum. And in today's digital world, momentum matters. Visibility matters. Public attention is one of the most valuable currencies in entertainment. Because of that, some observers began comparing the two situations side by side. On one side was Remy Ma, whose name seemed to be appearing everywhere. On the other side was Papoose, whose live streams were generating speculation, but not necessarily controlling the headlines. Whether that comparison was fair didn't matter. Once social media creates a narrative, people often start viewing future events through that lens. That's exactly what happened here. A growing number of users began asking whether Papoose was becoming frustrated with the imbalance in attention. Again, there was no confirmed evidence supporting that theory. But confirmation isn't always necessary for online discussions to gain traction. Then came another moment that added fuel to the fire. Not long before the Knicks championship song entered the picture, Papoose shared content connected to older music from his catalog. Normally, this wouldn't have been controversial. Artists regularly revisit past projects. Fans often enjoy nostalgia. Yet the reaction wasn't entirely positive. Instead of focusing on the music itself, many users flooded comment sections with references to Remy Ma. Some commenters suggested he should focus elsewhere. Others accused him of trying to remain part of conversations that weren't centered around him. Those reactions revealed something important. The public wasn't just following individual stories anymore. They were following a shared storyline. Everything involving Papoose was now being viewed through the lens of his connection to Remy Ma. Every post, every appearance, every song, every live stream. And once that happens, escaping the narrative becomes almost impossible. By this point, the internet had become divided into two camps. One group believed Papoose was being treated unfairly. They argued that he couldn't post anything without critics trying to connect it to someone else. They felt he deserved the freedom to promote music, celebrate New York, and interact with fans without every action becoming a headline about his personal life. The other group wasn't convinced. They believed the timing of certain actions felt too strategic to ignore. They argued that celebrities understand how attention works. They know when stories are trending. They know how headlines are created. And because of that, some fans began wondering whether every move was being carefully calculated. Neither side had definitive proof. But that didn't stop the debate from growing louder every day. Then something happened that transformed speculation into a full-blown controversy. A brand new Knicks championship anthem appeared. And the moment fans saw who released it, the internet exploded. Because now the conversation wasn't just about live streams anymore. Now there was a song, a release date, a timeline, and a series of questions that would send social media into overdrive. The moment news started spreading that Papoose had released a brand new Knicks championship song, everything changed. Up until that point, most of the discussion had been centered around theories, live stream clips, and fan interpretations. People were debating emotions. They were debating body language. They were debating social media posts. But now there was something tangible. There was an actual release. There was a real song attached to a real moment. And perhaps most importantly, there was timing. Timing is everything in entertainment. A song released at the wrong moment can disappear without anyone noticing. A song released at the perfect moment can dominate headlines for days. That's why so many people immediately focused less on the music itself and more on when it arrived. The Knicks championship celebration was already one of the biggest stories in New York. Social media was flooded with basketball content. Celebrities were posting reactions. Sports networks were covering every angle. Musicians were joining the celebration. The city was operating on pure excitement. Then Papoose entered the conversation with his own contribution. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual about that. After all, Papoose has always been proud of New York. His career has been heavily connected to the city. He's never hidden his love for New York culture, New York music, or New York sports. Supporters quickly pointed that out. They argued that releasing a Knicks-themed song during a championship celebration was exactly what someone like Papoose would be expected to do. To them, the criticism made no sense. Why shouldn't a New York artist celebrate a historic New York sports moment? But critics weren't looking at the song in isolation. They were looking at everything happening around it. That's where the controversy started. At the same time that the Knicks celebration was dominating headlines, Remy was receiving attention for her involvement in a remix that had become part of the broader New York conversation. The record was gaining visibility. Major media outlets were talking about it. Sports-related platforms were helping push it into new audiences. Streaming numbers were generating discussion. Industry figures were showing support. It felt like momentum was building. Then suddenly, another New York-themed release appeared. And some observers immediately became suspicious. Their argument was simple. If this release had happened weeks earlier, nobody would have questioned it. If it had happened weeks later, nobody would have questioned it. But because it happened during a period when Remy was receiving significant attention, many people started wondering whether the timing was truly coincidental. Again, there was no evidence proving that theory. But in the age of social media, evidence isn't always required for a conversation to explode. The debate spread rapidly. Some fans believed Papoose saw an opportunity to participate in a major New York cultural moment and took it. Others believed he was intentionally stepping into an existing conversation that already had momentum. The internet quickly split into opposing camps, with both sides convinced they understood what was really happening. Then another detail started attracting attention. The production credits. Suddenly, discussions involving Swizz Beatz began appearing across social media. Fans noticed his name being connected to conversations surrounding the track. Questions started spreading online. Was Swizz Beatz directly involved? How involved was he? Did he produce the record? Was he aware of all the speculation surrounding it? Nobody seemed completely sure. And uncertainty creates curiosity. The more questions people had, the bigger the conversation became. Adding even more intrigue was the fact that Swizz Beatz had already been highly visible during the Knicks celebration period. He was posting New York content. He was celebrating major moments. Fans were seeing him connected to the city's excitement in various ways. Because of that visibility, people naturally became interested when his name started appearing alongside discussions involving Papoose's release. Before long, social media users were creating entirely new theories. Some believed the collaboration gave the record additional credibility. Others wondered whether people were exaggerating the connection. Meanwhile, the actual song continued attracting attention simply because of the controversy surrounding it. Ironically, many people discussing the release weren't even talking about the music. They were talking about what they believed the release represented. That's when the story stopped being about a Knicks anthem. It became a story about perception. Perception is powerful in entertainment. Sometimes public reaction has very little to do with the actual content being released. Instead, it depends on the story people create around it. And that's exactly what happened here. To supporters, Papoose was being unfairly criticized for celebrating his hometown. To critics, the release felt like a strategic attempt to become part of an already viral conversation. Neither side was willing to back down. Comment sections became battlefields. Videos analyzing the situation started appearing everywhere. Influencers began sharing opinions. Fans started comparing timelines. And with every passing day, the discussion became less about facts and more about interpretation. What made matters even more fascinating was the difference in performance between various Knicks-related records circulating during that period. Some fans began comparing songs. Others debated which artist had produced the strongest tribute. Certain listeners preferred one record. Others preferred another. Suddenly, the conversation expanded beyond Papoose and Remy entirely, and became part of a broader debate about who was truly representing New York's championship moment. Yet somehow, despite all those different discussions, people kept returning to the same question. Why release the song right now? That single question became the center of everything. Because if the timing was innocent, then much of the criticism seemed unfair. But if the timing was strategic, then many critics felt their suspicions were justified. The problem was that nobody outside the people directly involved could know the answer. Which meant speculation continued growing. And just when fans thought they had heard every possible theory, a much bigger discussion started emerging, one involving industry strategy, personal history, public perception, and whether Papoose was truly being judged for the song itself or for everything people believed was happening behind the scenes. And that discussion would take the controversy to an entirely new level. By now, the debate had moved far beyond the actual song. At first, people were discussing lyrics, production, and the excitement surrounding the Knicks championship. But as the days passed, something interesting happened. More and more people stopped talking about the record itself and started talking about what they believed the record represented. That's when the conversation became much bigger than music. The reason for that is simple. When celebrities go through highly publicized personal situations, every move they make starts carrying extra meaning. Fans don't just see a song release anymore. They see possible messages. They see responses. They see strategy. They see emotion. Whether those interpretations are accurate or not becomes almost irrelevant, because the public has already decided there is a deeper story hiding underneath the surface. That's exactly where Papoose found himself. For years, he built a reputation as one of hip-hop's most respected figures when it came to loyalty and commitment. Fans admired the way he stood beside Remy Ma during difficult periods of her life and career. Their relationship became part of hip-hop culture itself. Interviews, reality television appearances, social media moments, and public statements all helped create an image that many people believed represented true partnership. Because of that history, people became emotionally invested. When reports and rumors started suggesting changes in their relationship, audiences didn't simply move on. They wanted explanations. They wanted updates. Most importantly, they wanted to know what happened. That's why every move made by either person now attracts so much attention. If Remy Ma releases music, people analyze it. If Papoose posts online, people analyze it. If either one attends an event, fans start looking for hidden meaning. The public has turned their personal situation into an ongoing storyline. And storylines need new chapters. For many observers, the Knicks Anthem felt like one of those chapters. Not because of what was said in the song, but because of when it appeared. One argument kept showing up repeatedly across social media. Critics claimed that Papoose has recently found himself entering conversations that already have momentum behind them. According to this theory, rather than creating entirely new discussions, he is stepping into conversations that are already generating headlines. Supporters strongly rejected that idea, arguing that people were unfairly criticizing him simply because they had already decided on a narrative. The truth is probably much more complicated. In entertainment, timing often determines visibility. Artists release songs around holidays. They release music during major sporting events. They release records when cultural conversations are already active. That isn't unusual. In fact, it's standard practice. However, because Papoose is currently connected to a larger public story involving Remy Ma, many people are viewing perfectly normal industry decisions through a completely different lens. And that's where things become complicated. Take the reaction surrounding Remy Ma's recent success. The remix she became associated with was receiving attention from multiple directions. Sports fans were hearing about it. Music fans were discussing it. Industry platforms were promoting it. Streaming numbers were growing. Every new development seemed to create another headline. Then comes the Knicks Anthem. For supporters, that was simply another artist celebrating New York. For critics, it looked like an attempt to redirect attention. Neither side could prove their position. Yet both sides argued passionately. That's why social media became flooded with theories. Some people suggested Papoose was trying to remind audiences that he still had a place in New York's music conversation. Others argued he never left that conversation in the first place. Some believed the release was carefully planned. Others thought the criticism was completely unfair. The more people debated, the larger the story became. Ironically, the controversy itself ended up generating more attention than the song could have generated alone. And that's something many people failed to notice. Every reaction video, every social media post, every debate, every article, all of it helped push the release further into public conversation. Whether people supported Papoose or criticized him, they were still talking about him. In today's entertainment world, attention is often the most valuable asset of all. Then another issue entered the conversation. Comparison. Fans started comparing everything. They compared songs. They compared timing. They compared public reactions. They compared career momentum. They compared engagement levels. And once comparisons begin, controversy almost always follows. Some listeners felt other artists had delivered stronger Knicks celebration records. Others believed Papoose's contribution deserved more respect. Neither opinion was right or wrong. Music is subjective. But the comparisons helped keep the debate alive. Suddenly, people weren't discussing one song anymore. They were discussing relevance. They were discussing visibility. They were discussing who was winning the attention battle. And whenever conversations shift toward relevance, emotions tend to get involved. That's exactly what happened here. The longer the debate continued, the less it felt like a discussion about music and the more it felt like a discussion about perception. Because at its core, this entire controversy comes down to one question. How do people view Papoose right now? Do they see a veteran artist proudly celebrating New York? Or do they see someone trying to insert himself into a moment that already belonged to someone else? Depending on who you ask, you'll get a completely different answer. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. Because the song itself may never settle the debate. The lyrics may never settle the debate. The timing may never settle the debate. Instead, the answer depends entirely on how people interpret the events surrounding it. And as the discussion continued getting louder online, one final question started emerging. A question that could completely change how fans view this entire situation. Because what if the controversy isn't helping or hurting Papoose at all? What if it's doing exactly what every artist hopes for in today's crowded entertainment landscape? Keeping everyone talking. As the debate continued spreading across social media, something unexpected started happening. The conversation was no longer focused on whether Papoose was right or wrong. It wasn't even focused on whether fans agreed with his decision to release the Knicks Anthem. Instead, people became obsessed with discussing the situation itself. Every day brought new opinions. Every new post generated another round of speculation. Every reaction video created even more discussion. And when that happens in today's entertainment world, one thing becomes clear. Somebody is benefiting from the attention. The interesting part is that the real winner might not be the person most people expect. Think about it. Before the release, many conversations were centered around Remy, her recent musical momentum, and the growing buzz surrounding her involvement in major projects. Entertainment blogs were discussing her. Fans were celebrating her. Industry conversations seemed to be moving in her direction. Then suddenly, Papoose became part of the story again. Not necessarily because of a shocking interview. Not because of a public argument. Not because of a major controversy involving accusations or statements. Simply because he released a song at a moment that people found impossible to ignore. That's the power of timing. Whether intentional or accidental, timing can completely change the trajectory of a conversation. A release that might have quietly come and gone during another week suddenly became a major talking point because it arrived during a period when emotions, attention, and speculation were already running high. That's why many industry observers believe that perception often matters just as much as content. People don't just react to what you release. They react to when you release it. And that's exactly what happened here. What's fascinating is how divided the public remains. Usually, after a few days, social media reaches some form of consensus. People eventually settle on a dominant narrative. But in this situation, the split remains almost perfectly balanced. One side continues arguing that Papoose was simply celebrating a historic New York sports moment. The other side remains convinced there was a larger strategy behind the release. Neither side has managed to convince the other. That tells you something important. The story has evolved beyond facts. It's now about belief. Supporters believe one version. Critics believe another. And because neither side possesses definitive proof, the debate keeps growing. Meanwhile, both Papoose and Remy continue finding themselves at the center of public attention. That's another reason this situation remains so intriguing. Every move made by either person immediately becomes part of a larger narrative. A song release becomes a statement. A social media post becomes a clue. A live stream becomes evidence. Fans are no longer viewing events individually. They are viewing them as chapters in an ongoing story. And stories keep people invested. Many entertainment analysts would argue that's exactly why celebrity news thrives. Audiences become emotionally attached to storylines. They want to know what happens next. They want updates. They want answers. Even when no clear answers exist, the desire to understand keeps people engaged. That's precisely what's happening with Papoose and Remy Ma right now. Another factor keeping the discussion alive is uncertainty about the future. Nobody knows what comes next. Will Papoose's Knicks Anthem gain momentum over time? Will new listeners discover it and push it into a larger conversation? Or will the controversy surrounding the release ultimately overshadow the music itself? That's a question nobody can answer yet. The same uncertainty exists regarding the broader situation. Will Remy Ma's current momentum continue growing? Will new collaborations emerge? Will additional headlines appear? Will either side directly address the speculation that has dominated social media? Right now, nobody knows. And whenever uncertainty exists, curiosity follows. That's why fans remain glued to every development. The internet loves unfinished stories. An unfinished story creates endless possibilities. Some observers believe this entire controversy will eventually fade away as new topics replace it. That's certainly possible. Social media moves quickly. Today's biggest debate often becomes tomorrow's forgotten headline. Yet others believe this is merely the beginning of a much larger chapter. They think future releases, future interviews, and future appearances could reignite the conversation in an even bigger way. If history teaches us anything, it's that entertainment stories rarely end when people expect them to. Especially when emotions are involved. Especially when public relationships are involved. Especially when fan loyalty is involved. And perhaps most importantly, especially when both sides continue generating attention. That's why many people are already watching for the next move. Not just from Papoose. Not just from Remy Ma. But from everyone connected to the story. Because every new development has the potential to completely shift public perception once again. For now, however, one thing remains undeniable. A Knicks celebration song became much more than a Knicks celebration song. A simple release turned into a social media debate. A debate turned into a viral conversation. And a viral conversation transformed into one of the most discussed celebrity stories surrounding Papoose and Remy Ma in recent weeks. Whether the timing was coincidence, strategy, or simply misunderstood by the public may never be fully known. But one thing is certain. People are still talking. And in the entertainment business, staying at the center of the conversation is often the biggest victory of all. If you've made it this far, now it's your turn to weigh in. Do you think Papoose was simply celebrating a historic moment for New York? Or do you believe the timing of the Knicks Anthem was connected to all the attention surrounding Remy Ma? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this debate has completely divided fans, and there are strong arguments on both sides. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest celebrity news, hip-hop drama, and trending entertainment stories. And trust me, this story is far from over. New reactions, new rumors, and possibly new developments could change everything at any moment. Until next time, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Nobody expected Papoose to become one of the most talked about names in hip-hop again, because of a New York Knicks celebration song. But that's exactly what's happening right now. What should have been a simple moment of hometown pride has suddenly turned into a social media debate that has fans asking one question over and over again. Was this really about the Knicks? Or was it about Remy Ma? For weeks,